before the cities fell asleep, before the caravans moved under the stars, there was a road that didn't even have a name yet. Not of stone, not of columns, but of footprints, of winds, and of a silent breath. The Silk Road never began with noise. It didn't announce itself to the world. It began softly, a single traveler, a distant horizon, the slow creaking of leather bags tied to a patient camel. In the deep silence of old mornings, this road connected worlds that would never meet face to face. East and west, mountains, deserts, empires, and forgotten towns and villages. It moved along the road, not noisy, not proudly, carefully folded, protected from dust. Carried like a secret, the Silk Road was only a surface. Here, the real travelers were ideas, beliefs, stories whispered around small fires at night. A Chinese merchant walked alongside a Persian merchant. Neither spoke the same language, yet both understood the rhythm of the journey. Days passed slowly. The sun rose, the sun set, and the journey continued. Here, there were no echoes of wars. Kings did not shout orders. Only the sound of sand underfoot, the low breaths of resting animals, and the silent patience of distance. This was not a hurried journey. This was a journey of time. When night fell, the world darkened, but the journey did not stop. Under a vast sky full of stars, the travelers lay beside their caravans, wrapped in their cloaks, listening to the wind blowing across the desert. Here, every star felt closer. Every moment passed slower, and as sleep approached, the Silk Road continued to exist, not as a road on a map, but as a quiet thread connecting distant worlds. 1715, before the cities fell asleep, before the caravans moved under the stars, there was a road that had no name yet, a road made not of stone but of footprints, of wind, and of a silent intention. The Silk Road did not begin with noise. It did not announce itself to the world. It began softly, a single traveler. The morning was slowly dawning, not suddenly, not abruptly. It spread across the desert like a warm breath, touching the fabric, the leather, and the weary hands preparing for another long day. The caravans began to move before the air temperature rose. Feet gently touched the sand, still recalling the coolness of the night. The camels paused patiently and silently, as if they already knew the distance ahead. This journey was not meant to be rushed. Every step had weight. Every path demanded calm endurance. The silk swayed gently with the movement. Spices released faint scents into the air. Carefully wrapped porcelain leaned against wood and fabric. Nothing was rushed. The travelers spoke little. Words were precious here, reserved for important moments. A nod, a shared glance, a silent understanding among the people walking in the sky was above them, so vast that their worries seemed smaller beneath it. The clouds drifted slowly, not interfering, just watching. As the sun rose, the world shone. The warmth blurred the horizon, turning the distance into a dream-like mirage. Yet the caravan continued. Not with gold, not with power, with a simple promise that somewhere ahead, another land awaited, a place where different voices were heard, different beliefs, different nights, and again the same sky and stars. As the day lengthened, the movement slowed. The steps became measured and very careful. The road accepted weariness as part of the journey. As evening approached, shadows stretched across the sands. The air softened again. And once again, the Silk Road embraced silence. As evening fell, walls appeared on the horizon, not suddenly, slowly. Stones rose from the darkness, promising rest without words demanding it. These were Silk Road cities. They were not noisy, they were not restless. They breathed slowly, as if the road itself had taught them patience. Torches flickered at the gates, casting a warm light on the weathered stones. Guards watched silently, their presence more ceremonial than threatening. Inside, narrow streets curved gently. Footsteps echoed softly, never hasty. The markets were closed. Stalls rested under cloth coverings, waiting until morning. The air carried layered scents. Dust, spices, old wood, each scent carrying a memory of travelers who had passed through here before. In the caravanserais, doors were opened without question, animals were led gently, water was offered without being asked. No one asked where you came from first. They asked if you were tired. Lanterns twinkled in the courtyards. Light reflected off stone and metal, softening every edge. Here, languages overlapped like silent music. Whispers from distant lands floated in the air. Words didn't they simply existed side by side. Stories stood in unfinished sentences. Tales paused, waiting for another night. Above the city, the sky turned indigo blue. Stars appeared one by one, unchanging. Travelers lay under foreign roofs, listening to the city's breath, and for a few hours the road allowed silence. The city vanished behind, existing, resistively. The roads returned from beyond the gates. Silently and patiently, the caravan moved along a single path. They knew no haste. They did not delay. The only thing that remembered the traveler was the sound of footsteps on the sand. The builders swayed regularly, their shadows stretched under the moon. The bells hanging from leather straps tinked softly, a sound so recognizable that it blended into the night. No one spoke loudly. The voices remained low, as if the fields were listening to them. During the rest, the fire flickered briefly. The flames danced, then calmed down, and its heat rose. Eyes closed. The sky felt closer here. The stars shone brighter, uninterrupted by walls or roofs. The direction of the constellations was being shown as it had been for centuries. I followed the same path over and over again under the same sky. The wind swept through the layers of clothes and fabrics, cool and reassuring. I would relay the stories and then leave them. Time slowed down not by hours, but by steps. Somewhere in the distance, a city was awaited. Behind, in two streams side by side, music was being listened to, depending on the road, without wanting anything. And from the silent movement of the caravan, the time for sleep had come. The day was slowly dawning. The caravan set off again, as if it had never stopped. With each step, the bundles swayed gently, carefully wrapped, protected. Silk lay in layers, smooth and silent, folded like water trapped in the fabric. Spices slept in sealed bags, cinnamon, cloves, pepper. The scents of the spices slowly escaped, mixing with the dust and air. Porcelain traveled wrapped in straw, fragile, trusted to the road. Parchments were kept in leather cases. Ink and ideas traveled further than their authors could ever reach. Gold was rare. Knowledge weighed more heavily. Every object carried more than its value. It carried a place, a people, a society, a memory. Hands checked the ropes and knots. Nothing was rushed. Everything was done carefully. The merchants understood the rhythm. Haste punished the roads. Patience, however, was rewarded. As the sun rose, the colors softened. Silk reflected the light gently, never drawing attention. Imagine being very wealthy, yet here you learn silence and find tranquility. In the desert, everything was considered equal. There was no distinction between rich and poor, sacred and ordinary. At midday, the road whispered silently, not with sounds, but with movement. And under a steady pace, sleep would begin to come without disturbing. The footsteps formed a silent rhythm, slow, steady, and uninterrupted. The sands responded gently to each step, never resisting, never clinging. Every movement seemed deliberate. Nothing was rushed. Nothing was delayed. The caravan spoke without sound. It spoke through movement. Yes, 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 through movement. Through pauses. Through a simple agreement. The camels moved with deep, measured breaths. Shadows spread long across the ground. The steps were not forced. They were inherited, learned through generations in the same way. Small bells hung loosely from worn leather straps. They only rang when the wind touched them. No hand pulled them forward. No command pushed them forward. The road itself determined the pace. The merchants walked with their eyes downcast, not from weariness, but from confidence. The ground was familiar. Every grain of sand felt familiar. Looking too far ahead led to uncertainty. Looking back invited longing. So they followed their steps, with the sound of their breaths, with the warmth of the sun. The cloaks rustled silently. The fabrics brushed against each other, a soft reminder of existence. Dust rose briefly, hung in the air for a moment, then was swallowed by silence again. It was as if the earth itself was breathing. Speech turned to silence, and silence became a companion. Words were replaced by a nod, questions by a shared glance. Time lost its effect here. The minutes stretched on. The hours softened. The sun continued its slow arc across the sky, unhurried, observant, and beneath the steady rhythm of the walk, thoughts began to slow down. The mind followed the steps, gliding gently, resting between one moment and the next. The sun was about to set, the desert was slowly softening. The light turned first to gold, then to amber, then to a calm blue. The shadows lengthened gently, no longer sharp, no longer noticeable. The heat of the day had given way, leaving behind a calm warmth. The footsteps slowed almost imperceptibly, not from weariness, but from instinct. The evening had its own rhythm. The road was listening. The camels raised their heads slightly, sensing the change in the air. Their breathing deepened, became more regular, as if they were preparing to rest without stopping. The air grew colder. The wind increased in speed. It moved softly across the sand dunes, touching faces and fabrics. The fabric rippled once, then settled. A horizon line turned into shadow. Unhurriedly, where it met the sky, the first stars slowly appeared, one by one, as if they were asking permission to exist. No one pointed them out. No one needed to point them out. They had been seen here for centuries. A small firewood had been prepared, but it hadn't been lit yet. It was just waiting. Hands moved slowly, carefully, as if the night itself were fragile. The road didn't end here. It just paused. The silence intensified, mixed further with the wind coming from afar and the soft sounds of breath. The desert felt vast. It wasn't empty. It felt cautious, patient, and gentle. Thoughts relaxed. There was nothing left to plan, nothing left to remember. Only the gentle presence of the moment, settled like twilight. Night came without ceremony, without a sign, there was a deep blue sky slowly descending to the earth. The stars were more distinct, their light unaffected by thousands of years of journey, steady and patient. Looking up at the sky from above the caravan, it seemed endless. It wasn't far, but it wasn't near either, as if it were leaning in to listen. The fire was lit slowly, with a single spark. The flame, they remained low, warm, obedient. Faces gathered around the light, half in the light, half in the shadow. No story was told aloud. Words were unnecessary. The journey had already told enough stories. Hands clasped around the cups, feeling the warmth seeping in, calming the body. They obeyed breathlessly. An unplanned shared rhythm formed. Some looked at the fire, the others looked towards the sky. Both offered the same thing, peace and tranquility. The desert was growing colder, but conversely, the tranquility was deepening. Even the camels settled down, kneeling softly in the sand. Their long bodies rested like ancient statues. Sleep had not yet come, but it was approaching, closer than it had been all day. The road lay beneath the sky, motionless, unchanged. It had been seen countless times until this night, and it would be seen again. For now, it was simply waiting. Saba hazlu bersheki de gelmedi, kendini du yurmada. Sada se otea chikip, yavasha sabela vesukunetle sanki dunanen tum zamanana sahipnish gibi, getse direnmeden kendini gevsheti. Yildazla birbe soliyodu kaybol madila, sadece geriye çekil diler. Ufukta soluk bir çizgi oluştu, inse ve kırılgan durdurulamaz gibi duruyordu. Sol nefesel maktaydı. Serin hava yere yakin kaldi karanlığın anısını tutuyordu. Henüz hiçbir şey hareket etmedi. Epek yolu hiçbir zaman günün başlangıcına atölye getirmezdi. Sessizlik geniş bir alana yayıldı. Sadece kumun yumuşak hareketleri bozuldu. Geceden kalma ayak izleri geride dağınık kaldı. Çabuk unutulan bir diyarda geçici izler. Ateş, köz haline gelmişti. Kul sessiz de dinleniyordu sanki uyuyormuş gibi. Bedenler yavaşça hareketlendi. Ne bir korkudan ne de bir emirden ama havaya geri dönen sıcaklıktan. Gözler yavaşça açıldı. Eller tanıdık nesnelere uzandı. Kumaş ip, su tulumları gibi. Kevan birbirine kalkmadı. Bir kişi ayağa kalktı, daha sonra bir diğeri. Hareketlerin söylenmediği, yıllar içinde öğrenilen tekrarlarla anlaşıldığı görüldü. Kemerler sıkıldı. Yükler dikkatlice ayarlandı. Asla acele edilmedi. Ağırlık tanıdıktı. Ağır ama beklenen bir ağırlık. Önümüzdeki mesafe çoktu. Sayırla sayılmıyordu. Haritalarla ölçülmüyordu. Buradaki mesafe sabırla ölçülüyordu. Nefesle. Dayanıklılıkla. Her adım bir öncekinin anısını taşıyordu. Her duraklama ve toparlanma için alan sağlıyordu. Yol tehdit etmiyordu. Ama rahatlatmıyordu da sessiz bir kayıtsızlıkla var oluyordu. Ve debaydu. Güneş daha yükseğe çıktı. Kumun üzere uzun gölgeler düşürdü. Yolkaların ardında uzanan gölgeler. Her hareketi takip eden ensiz yoldaşlardı, öncülük etmiyorlardı. Takip ediyorlardı. Zaman burada farklı hissediliyor, daha yavaş. Ne ileri gidiyor ne geriye. Sades, mebet, ya. Sabit ibidi. Hırsız yumuşamış gibiydi. Nefes alışla düzenli bir ritim buluyordu. Toprak kestirme. The road stretched on unhurriedly. No destination was promised. The road offered no reassurance. It simply continued on. The horizon carefully maintained its distance, neither approaching nor receding. The sky was slowly expanding, layer by layer, becoming wider than thoughts. The clouds drifted aimlessly, unaffected by time. Their shadows gently passed over the earth, like fleeting visitors on an ancient surface. The caravan moved beneath them, small against the open space above. Each traveler walked in their own silence. Not alone, they were simply introspective. The rhythm of movement settled deeper. Step by step, breath found balance. The earth demanded consistency, not strength. Strength faded, consistency continued. Hours passed like water. There were no bells to mark their passage. There were no clocks dividing the sky. There was only the slow rise of the sun and its even slower descent. The road absorbed the sound. Spoken voices seemed unnecessary. Words vanished before they left. The silence here was not empty. On the contrary, it was full. Filled with distance, with patience. The animals walked calmly, their movements learned through repetition, hooves pressed against the earth, leaving tracks that would disappear in the evening. Nothing here expects permanence. Nothing resists change. The water skins were getting lighter, not suddenly, not dramatically, just slowly. Hands lifted them less frequently. Sips became measured. Comfort gave way to care. The sun remained fixed in the sky. Not harsh, not gentle, just present. The warmth settled on the skin, not scorching. It was constant. The fabric absorbed the heat. Shadows shortened, drawing beneath the bodies. Time slowed, even thoughts stretched. Memories crept in uninvited. Faces from distant cities appeared briefly, then vanished. Markets, gates, sounds were remembered, not clearly but warmly. The road allowed memories. but it did not allow the travelers. The Silk Road didn't progress. It simply opened, not as a line, but as an entity. Yes, a space where time slowly lost its boundaries. Time didn't make itself known here. Morning, afternoon, and evening. Times blended together. Without sharp beginnings or abrupt endings, the light gradually softened. The sun glided across the sky like an inconspicuous silent thought. The caravan walked beneath, step by step, without counting. Counting no longer made sense. The numbers vanished. Only repetition remained. The sound of movement was familiar. The gentle creaking of leather, the rubbing of fabric against fabric, the footprints pressing into the ancient earth. The earth remembered these. It had heard them for centuries. It would hear them again. The road itself seemed patiently worn. It wasn't forcibly carved, but shaped with resilience. Each traveler carried the silence differently. Some carried it lightly, others felt its weight pressing against their chests. But no one tried to escape it. The silence here wasn't something to be filled. It was something to be entered in. Breathing slowed, not intentionally. It simply followed the rhythm of the earth. Each breath felt longer, deeper, more conscious. Thoughts softened. They no longer formed sharp edges. Memories came and went, unattached. A sound once heard in a distant city. The warmth of a lamp behind a closed door. The echo of footsteps in stone corridors. All appeared briefly, then vanished, like dust settling on the ground. The road allowed the memory that didn't cling to it. The animals sensed the change in rhythm. Their movements slowed, more economically. They understood the road better than words. Hooves pressed down, then lifted without resistance. The desert responded with silent acceptance. The wind blew gently across the earth. Not strong, not forceful. Just enough to remind everything that it was still in motion. Grains of sand shifted. Footprints softened. The Silk Road never explained itself. It never announced where it began or where it ended. It existed without announcement. Travelers didn't question the road. Instead, they learned to listen. Because the road spoke only with feelings. It spoke mainly with rhythm, with the silent understanding that some journeys shouldn't be rushed. Movement along the Silk Road was continuous. It wasn't divided into days or nights. It wasn't divided into clear sections. It was like a long, steady breath taken across continents. The land opened up slowly. Mountains rose without warning, and the plains stretched out wide and open, giving no sign, just a vast emptiness. In this emptiness, thoughts relaxed. Worries lost their urgency. The mind adapted to the body's rhythm, and the body adapted to the road's patience. Sounds were rare. The words, as they were spoken, were soft, measured, used only when necessary. The silence here wasn't disturbed. It was familiar. It was comforting. It enveloped the travelers like a shared understanding. Everyone had a different story. A city left behind, a family waiting somewhere beyond the horizon, a trade to be completed, a promise to be fulfilled. But on the Silk Road, these stories were listened to silently. They weren't pushed forward. They walked gently alongside their owners. The steps fell into patterns, the same movement, again and again. Soon the movement became automatic. The body remembered what to do without it. The muscles worked effortlessly, breathing naturally aligned with each step. In this state, time softened. The hours no longer felt heavy. The minutes lost their sharpness. There was no need to measure how much distance had been covered, nor how much remained. The path simply accepted existence, not progress. Existence. Hands rested comfortably at the sides. The fabrics rustled with the movement. The soft rustling of the transported goods faded into the pastel side. The Silk Road did not awaken suddenly. Morning came slowly, almost carefully. The light did not quickly cover the lands. It lingered at the far edges, then moved inward. The colors returned in softened tones, not sharp, not demanding. The road remained silent, as if unwilling to disturb the tranquility established during the night. The travelers rose without haste. There were no bells, no calls, only a subtle awareness that the movement would continue. Hands adjusted the straps. The fabrics were straightened. Shoes touched the ground again with a familiar weight. There was a comfort in the repetition. The same movements, the same order. Each movement carried a sense of ease acquired over time. The Silk Road welcomed this pace. It did not reward speed. It rewarded patience. The land opened up as it wished. The hills gradually appeared, their outlines softening with distance. The wind blew gently, never strong. It carried the scent of the earth, dry grass, and distant places. The caravan continued its silent flow, step by step, naturally aligned. Distances remained unspoken but perfectly understood. No one needed to lead. No one needed to follow. The path itself guided the movement. Thoughts now wandered freely, not toward anxiety, not toward urgency, but toward observation, like the touch of light on stone, like shadows shifting with each passing, like sound rapidly blending into the open space. While the mind, alert without tension, present without effort, hours passed without warning. The path offered no signs, only continuity. The body adapted once more. Breathing slowed, muscles worked smoothly, effortlessly. The rhythm became internalized. It moved silently within. Somewhere along the way, the sense of destination weakened. The destination seemed less important than the journey itself. The Silk Road allowed for this surrender. It demanded no attention. It requested no faith. It simply existed, and in this. The Silk Road did not awaken suddenly. Morning came slowly, almost carefully. The light did not quickly cover the lands. It lingered at the far edges, then moved inward. The colors returned in softened tones, not sharp, not demanding. The road remained silent, as if unwilling to disturb the tranquility established during the night. The travelers rose without haste. There were no bells, no calls, only a subtle awareness that the movement would continue. Hands adjusted the straps, the fabrics were straightened, shoes touched the ground again with a familiar weight. There was a comfort in the repetition. The same movements, the same order. Each movement carried a sense of ease acquired over time. The Silk Road welcomed this pace. It did not reward speed. It rewarded patience. The land opened up as it wished. The hills gradually appeared, their outlines softening with distance. The wind blew gently, never strong. It carried the scent of the earth, dry grass and distant places. The caravan continued its silent flow, step by step, naturally aligned. Distances remained unspoken but perfectly understood. No one needed to lead, no one needed to follow. The path itself guided the movement. Thoughts now wandered freely, not toward anxiety, not toward urgency, but toward observation. Like the touch of light on stone, like shadows shifting with each passing, like sound rapidly blending into the open space. While the mind rested, it remained aware, alert without tension, present without effort. Hours passed without warning. The path offered no signs, only continuity. The body adapted once more. Breathing slowed, muscles worked smoothly, effortlessly. The rhythm became internalized. It moved silently within. Somewhere along the way, the sense of destination weakened. The destination seemed less important than the journey itself. The Silk Road allowed for this surrender. It demanded no attention. It requested no faith. It simply existed. And in this,